Egypt, the home of ancient civilizations, is a land that attracts several archaeologists because of its mysterious and ancient culture. Oftentimes, when tourists visit Egypt, they can't wait to explore and take pictures of the Great Pyramids. But we know that dark, mystifying secrets abound in the realms of the land. These scary discoveries will be discussed in detail in this video. A frightening situation has been revealed as a group of archaeologists led by Zahi Hawass, an Egyptologist who once served as Egypt's Minister of Antiquities, focused their investigation on a pyramid belonging to Teti, the first king of Egypt's sixth dynasty. Individuals wanting to be buried near Teti because he was revered as a god during the New Kingdom period. According to Hawass' report, the majority of grave sites formerly in Saqqara originated during the Old Kingdom of the late period. In this exploration, they discovered 22 intertwined shafts spanning in depth from 30 to 60 feet, 9 to 18 meters, all of which contained New Kingdom burials. The Egyptian Empire, which survived from the 6th to the 11th centuries BC, is also known as the New Kingdom burials. This implies that because Teti was considered a god and ruled in the New Kingdom, these newly discovered burials were those of close associates of his. Upon digging further, the archaeologists discovered something spectacular buried within these new shafts. What was discovered? A massive limestone sarcophagus, as well as 300 exquisite New Kingdom coffins. Grave sites from the New Kingdom were not traditionally considered to be prevalent in the area, so this is unique to the site. The sarcophagi have distinct faces that differentiate between men and women and are adorned with characters from the Book of the Dead, an ancient Egyptian funerary text. Each coffin also bears the deceased's name and frequently depicts the 4 sons of Horus, who guarded the deceased's organs. As if discovering the coffins wasn't enough, when the researchers raised the covers, they were astonished to discover the mummies in excellent condition despite the hundreds of years. This suggested that mummification peaked in the New Kingdom. Some sarcophagi have 2 lids, and the most incredible sarcophagus so far has a lady's mask made entirely of solid gold. According to the archaeologists, various artifacts were discovered inside the coffins and tomb shafts, including games such as the ancient game of Senet, Shabtis, which also means small figurines, statues of the god Saqqara, and even a metal axe discovered in the hand of an army soldier. Another mysterious discovery was made as the investigation continued. The researchers discovered a pyramid memorializing a previously unrecognized queen. Almost all of Egypt's royals, kings, and queens were well known, but this particular queen was not. However, scientists have found that her name was Neith, and she was previously unknown from historical records. This amazing discovery has added another chapter to Egypt's history. This research has now helped rewrite history by adding the newly discovered queen to Egypt's royal records. Aside from just knowing her name, does she sound familiar? Speculations arose, and it was said that though Queen Neith had not been known, there was probability that she was named after the goddess Neith. This goddess was the patroness of the Sais in the Nile River Delta. From the pre-dynastic era to Roman rule, Neith was idolized as the goddess of creation, wisdom, weaving, and war. Because of her significance, many First Dynasty queens were given their names after her. The recently found Queen Neith is not Egypt's only female ruler with the name. Other leaders with the name included Neithotep and Merentenith. Before these discoveries were made, there had been other scary discoveries that archaeologists had made in the past. On the 100th anniversary of the finding of King Tut's tomb, archaeologists found large numbers of tombs and mummies buried in Giza. Archaeologists discovered the pyramid of a previously unknown ancient Egyptian queen, as well as a stockpile of coffins, mummies, and artifacts, and a network of intertwined tunnels. Archaeologists had been working at Saqqara, an archaeological site in Giza about 32 kilometers south of Cairo, for 2 years before these revelations. These vast amounts of coffins and mummies might have just belonged to some of King Tut's closest commanders and counselors during his reign, which began in 1333 BC and ended in 1323 BC. Another piece of research conducted in 2017 revealed a series of archaeological digs that revealed one thrilling discovery after another. Archaeologists discovered 8 mummies, colourful wooden sarcophagi, and approximately 1,000 funerary clay figurines in a perfectly preserved pharaonic tomb. This discovery dates back approximately 3,500 years. Another discovery was made in the city of Minya, about 250 kilometers south of Cairo. In February 2018, an Egyptian-German team has found an ancient necropolis here, complete with old burial chambers loaded up with tombs, mummies, and artifacts. Archaeologists said when this discovery was made that expeditions at the location are scheduled to continue for another 5 years, so this was just the beginning. At the same time, archaeologists in Giza discovered a 4,000-year-old grave with a burial chamber affiliated with a priestess named Hatbet. This priestess was greatly respected in her day, and the tomb dates from the 5th dynasty. Furthermore, in July 2018, a team of researchers from the University of Tübingen discovered a partly gold-plated death mask that is approximately 2,600 years old in Saqqara, south of Cairo. It was an extraordinarily rare discovery, as most gold or silver death masks were looted by grave robbers in ancient times. Archaeologists discovered only a few mummy masks made of precious metal. Many mummies have been unearthed, but the Ginger Man stands out. If you're wondering why this mummy was nicknamed Ginger, this was due to its red hair. However, this nickname is no longer officially used, and this is because of recent ethical policies for human remains. Ginger, who was buried around 3500 BC, is one of the best preserved individuals found in ancient Egypt. He was discovered in Gebelein, Upper Egypt around 1896, curled up in a shallow pit. His body was naturally mummified after coming into contact with hot, dry sand. He has quickly emerged as one of the British Museum's most famous exhibits since his debut. After this mummy was discovered to be intriguing, British Museum curators worked with scientists and medical experts to perform a CT scan on him. The British Museum reported that Ginger died violently around 5,500 years ago, utilising modern imaging techniques. Based on forensic experts' examination of the scans, it was determined that he'd been undoubtedly the victim of a violent murder based on a wound observed near his left shoulder blade. Experts believe Ginger had been the victim of a surprise attack during peacetime due to the lack of defensive wounds. He was a young man between the ages of 18 and 20 when he was brutally murdered, and he was athletic. Man's cruelty has existed since the beginning of time. We've been talking about mummies and mummification, but what is this concept about, and how is this process being carried out? Mummification is a word attributed to the land of Egypt, and archaeologists have been fascinated by this for ages, most especially since it has to do with deaths. The concept is both real and scary at the same time. A little backstory of how foreigners have been intrigued by the mummies of Egypt. Far back in the 19th century, high and notable men in Europe, mostly the English lords, were so surprised by the discoveries that they threw parties they tagged mummies parties. Weird, right? Now, what did they do at these parties, you may wonder? The lords will call upon archaeologists who have been to Egypt, and they will proudly present their findings from their excavations, which simply involve unwrapping Egyptian mummies to the amazement of the guests present at the party. It may not sound amusing to you, but it sure was to them. These days, scientific research has further helped to clarify most of our questions as to who some of the mummified bodies were, because some were buried deep into the earth and with many precious stones and jewels. The DNA traces unearthed in bones and other human remains reveal valuable information about any human being who died thousands of years ago. Thanks to science, not only that, but X-rays and tomographic tests can reveal the reason for death and provide insight into people's lives, revealing what they consumed or what made them sick, if they were physically active, whether they ate more meat or more grain, or if they had a herniated disc or infectious disease. Researchers could even find tattoos or determine the color of someone's hair. We were able to determine the deceased's social status based on the numerous body qualities. The mummification of bodies can be accomplished in a variety of ways. The well-known case of a 5,200-year-old glacier mummy known as C was merely freeze-dried after the man was killed by an arrow. Bodies in dry areas are mummified by hot weather, high saline soils, or simply being buried in the sand. In ancient Egypt, embalmers were set for life because they continued to work for up to 40 days on a dead body, extracting organs and stuffing the bodies with straw, soda bags, herbs and spices, fats, resins or honeys. To avoid damaging the skull, small hooks were used to extract the deceased's brains from his nose, a tried and true method of avoiding decomposition. The bodies were then wrapped in resin-soaked linen. Bodies were preserved in other cultures around the world by sewing them into animal skins, plastering them and embalming them, but Egyptian mummies are unquestionably the most famous. This is evident from their depiction in our horror films as zombies wrapped in linen cloth. I do not doubt that there are still uncountable ancient discoveries to be made in Egypt, and whatever they are, we are here for them. Let us know what you think of these discoveries in the comments. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed these scary situations discovered in Egypt, then be sure to subscribe and turn on post notifications to be updated on our latest videos.